Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I decided to do the best decks tier list for the December 2022 format. We have the same decks as my last tier list that I did, but I did add Crystal Beast and I also added Dark World because we are getting the Dark World structure deck in December. So the tiers are as per usual, and at the end of the video, please let me know what you think. Do you agree, disagree? What are you going to be playing moving forward and all of that? And with that, we can just go ahead and get started. Before that, I'm also going to shout out my patrons. I'm very thankful for you guys' support, and if any of you want to support me over there, you can always find the link in the description below. So as our first deck, we have ABC. To me, ABC just always seems rogue. It has some things going for it. ABC Dragon Buster by itself, to me, is still a scary card. Like, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I still sweat a bit when I'm going up against it, but it's like, maybe I'm just, you know, used to it from before because, let's be real, like, power creep happened. Like, overall, just rogue decks seem, at least in this point in time, much worse than the best decks because there's such a huge gap in power. But yeah, ABC, just rogue. We have Adamantia as well, and in my opinion, sometimes I would put it not good, but right now, like, it's decent, you know? It's a decent combo deck. It's doing some plays. It's making some kind of boards. But still, it just seems as though those types of decks can't really compete. That's a new one. Those types of decks can't really compete with just the engine, you know? You would see some, and I mentioned this in the last video, you would see some like replays or just videos of people playing, and it's like they're doing well when they're seeing side deck cards, which are like blowing up the opponent's board and just making the deck better by not being actually in engine. So at that point, you could be playing any deck and drawing into those cards. So I don't know, Adamantia to me just doesn't seem that great anymore without Block Dragon, even though I was a huge fan of the deck, and I'm really sad to see it not do well, but it's just the reality we're in, I guess. And then we also have Altergeist. Now, these decks, they're going kind of low. Like, I think I'll put it in not good. You saw me hovering over the broth here. Like, without Mystic Mine, those decks that were really powered by it cannot do anything, in my opinion. There's better trap decks and there's better decks all around. And I'm going to be very sad when we get to Sky Striker. But let's just wait. Let's go slowly. As our next deck, I don't think there's anything more I need to say about Ultrageist. It's just not there. And with Blackwing, like, to me, Blackwing seems, I think I'll put it, let me think. I might actually put it, let's put it at the top of not good. And I think I'm going to leave it over there. Like, in my opinion, it's really cool. But that's not really speaking to the power of the deck. It's just what I think about it. And I'm a fan of it. But there's a huge difference between some of the rogue decks and Blackwing, at least in my opinion. Some of the ones I think I'm going to be putting in Rogue. So it would be sort of unfair to put Blackwing there as well, because I do think it's still struggling, even with the new support, and top of not good just seems fine for it. As our next one, we have Tri Brigade. Now, I didn't, make the picture with Lyrilusk together, like with the Bird Brigade, even though Recital Starling came back, because there's still so many ways you're able to play this deck and you can just pretty much do whatever. So I still wanted to keep it like just Tri Brigade in this like representation of Tri Brigade. But I do want to mention the Bird Up deck essentially coming back, and I think it's still rogue, but I might put it above ABC actually, because with Lyrilusk Starling coming back to 2, that's fair. That's nice. You know, I'm happy for those players, because the deck just seems so power crept that even if it's coming, like, slowly coming back to 3, it's not going to make that much of a difference, because it's kind of hard to get going if you don't have the perfect extenders. At that point, you need to mash the deck up with the bird side of things, which is fine, you know, like Bird Call, an insane card, and just overall the deck is nice. But again, we got to the point where some of the best decks are that strong that it's like just sad seeing some other ones try to compete. So top of Rogue, I think, is fine for the deck. Maybe in a couple months time or on the next tier list, it might do better, you know, it might go higher if it actually sees some tops. Next up, we have BA, and I think I'm going to put it not good. I won't spend too much time talking about it. It's just BA. It's such an old deck. It's not only power creep, it's just overall the plays it makes, it cannot hang. That's just pretty much what it is. And as the next deck, we have the branded Bishio deck. I think I'll put it in tier 2. Not sure yet where exactly in tier 2, but I mentioned it in the top 5 decks, you know, for the upcoming format. I think this deck has a ton of potential. I might move it to like bottom of tier 1. Actually, yes, let's do that. I'll put it at the bottom of tier 1. With Bishios, you can go up against tier Ishizu and just feel quite comfortable. And I don't know, like other than that, branded has always been nice. But without the Bishio, actually, let's place branded in here. I'll put it in tier 2 because I do think the difference is very much apparent. So there's that. It's still an option for you to play. I think it's fine. And moving on to the Dragon Link Bishio deck, like with this, I mean everything. Dragon, Thunder Dragon, any kind of mashup you're trying to play, I think is tier 2. All of these decks just sometimes like feel like they struggle with consistency a bit and just have some things that aren't really going well for them compared to some other decks. And when you have an engine like Bishio and you're able to utilize it in either branded, in either Dragon Link, also other variants, like I would probably choose a variant that I feel like is, you know, just stronger and makes me feel more comfortable playing, which would probably be the branded variant. So that's why I'm putting it in tier 2. I don't think the two compare that much. I think Brandon is way better, so it would be kind of weird to put it higher, if that makes sense. Now for the next deck, we have Crystal Beast. On my last tier list, I made an error. The files weren't correct, so we didn't have Crystal Beast in the last tier list, although we did talk about it at the end. But here we actually have the Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus PNG, which, you know, I'm glad to see here. I think it's Rogue. I think it's like top of Rogue. I don't think I'll be putting it in tier 2 just because those decks, like, they aren't that consistent. You have some cards that you could say are kind of dead in your deck if you draw into them. Like, I realize you have a lot of things that are able to like give you plays with the new support. Like the spell cards are insane and I see a ton of potential in Crystal Beast, but still it probably isn't tier 2, at least yet. Maybe after some time it sees more play and all of that, but like Necro Valley is pretty much the thing that's really carrying it in this point in time. And I don't know, I think top of Rogue is fair, honestly. And then we have Dark World. So I did some research on the new stuff and I wanted to include Dark World because the structure deck is dropping really soon. Honestly, I think it's like Rogue. I won't put it at the top though because we can't say for sure what's going to happen. I do have a feeling I might put it in tier 2 or something, again, in a couple months time on the next tier list. But like the support is insane. The fusion is nice. The spells are nice. The hand loop is stupid. So like with the Teruli, you're able to achieve this, and it's cool to see old cards, you know, mashed up with new cards. Like support just seems very strong for the deck. I think it's very well thought out. I think it's like 9 cards or something, and it's really, really good. But the issue I have with those types of decks is it's kind of hard to go second. You're overall reliant on your dangers actually not getting hit. And then on top of that, you're going second. You're not playing a lot of sorry, I went too fast. You're not playing a lot of tech cards in those kinds of decks because you want to fit in all of the engine and everything you're trying to play. So it's much tougher going second. And I don't know, I'm not that big of a fan of RNG. keep with me. I know you're going like, what? You know, tier is like, it's RNG and it's like the best deck. I'm not a huge fan of RNG in a deck that's not that strong, because at that point you don't have anything else carrying you or backing you up if the RNG isn't really going in your favor, if that makes sense. I might be doing it injustice, but I think right now, before the structure deck actually drops, I think this placement is fine. Then we have DDD. It's just going in not good. Like, it's really sad to see, but pretty much on every single tier list I say it's just not there, even though it's a decent combo deck, but I really don't see it. And with dinos, like, it's interesting, you know, people are still playing dinos. It's cool to see. Honestly, like, it's a decent rogue deck, in my opinion. Like, it's able to go second very well, which is always nice to see. And, like, I think over here is, like, the perfect placement for dinos. Not much to say about them. It has been around for a very, very long time. So by now, I think, like, it's very obvious what it does. But still, you know, it's always going in different types of directions. Like, you see the FTK, you see some pure just going second variants, or going first, making some, like, establishing some boards. It's like, it's very interesting. And yeah, rogue is probably fine for it. And then we have Dynamorphia. I think I'll put it in not good, honestly. It's not seeing any tops. It's like over here, I think is probably the correct placement for it. Like I said, it's like, it's not seeing tops, and I do think tops and representation do play a part in this tier list, at least the one I'm making, and in my tier list in general. And then it's just a trap deck that doesn't seem among the top trap decks, and just all in all, with occasional regional tops, I still don't think it should go higher than not good, or maybe like bottom of rogue. Let's consider this for a second. Like, yeah, I'll slap it at the bottom of rogue and just keep it like somewhere very low. And then we have Dragon Link, the regular Dragon Link, without Chaos Ruler, without Fiber, which was also one of those cards that was like hard carrying the deck. I think if I put it like somewhere over here, it's very fair, just because people aren't even playing it, you know? You see the variants with Bistio and everything else, all of that, but I'm not considering that as Dragon Link anymore, at least in the version that we saw for a couple years. I was a huge fan of the deck. I really, really loved the deck. And yeah, it would just be weird if I would place it any higher, as sad as it makes me. And then we see next up the Dragon Mates, and I think it's fair to put them in Rogue. Like, maybe next to Adamantia. It just seems like a deck it seems like very interesting. With Bistios, I do think this is like a boost to Dragon Maid, but overall, it's still not higher than Rogue. It is a decent contender though. And then we have Drytron, and it's so funny because Drytron got power crept like just to oblivion because of Bistios, and right now with Herald being limited to 1, it's also sad to see. Like, I'm not certain how many people still played Herald without Eva, because it does seem like a bit of a brick if you don't have enough good fairies, if that makes sense. So Drytron is like, it's just not good. We could put it like, it's struggling against Bistios hard. Ishizu cards like slaughtered the deck, and it's just I don't know. I think like here or down here is probably fine. Then we have the Earth Machine deck. I always put this one in. It's like a decent rogue contender, and I don't talk about it much because it is one of those decks that can really like adjust to the format. With those types of decks, when they're able to play a bunch of floodgates, it's really up to the player to decide how they want to pilot the deck. And I think over here is fine. If you really make a good meta call with a deck like this, I think you can do well, but it's also a question of whether or not some of the floodgates or cards you're including are actually that impactful in the particular point in time. And right now, like, there's a couple things that you're able to run against the top deck, but I still don't think this deck is higher than Rogue. And then we also have Eldritch. Like, with the light attribute, it's very sad to go against Bistios and just see your lord being banished. And overall, just trap decks, like, without Red Reboot, it's nice. It's nicer, you know? You're still not there. With a trap deck, I do think, like, unless it's maybe Labyrinth, other than that, I wouldn't pick up a trap deck right now, because they are, like, hardcore, just power crept out of the format. And I guess let's put Eldritch in not good, maybe above Ultrageist, or actually no, we can put it below Ultrageist, because Ultrageist doesn't really care about Bistios with the attributes, so that's fine. And then we have Exosister. I think I'll put it in tier 2. I still think it's fine with Tirishizu. As long as Tirishizu is in the format, Exosister is going to be nice. D-Shifter is insane, and Necrovalley is insane, and this deck is able to run both. And even without that, looking at the Xyz monsters, like, I was never a huge fan of the deck, but I do see the potential in it, the power in it, and like I said, you know, the Xyz monsters are nice. They're very strong, and I do think your deck is consistent enough for you to always make some kind of plays. And like I said, on top of that, you have Shifter and Necro Valley, so tier 2 is probably perfect. Then we have Flunder, and Flunder, in my opinion, I don't think it can be tier 1, just because it's struggling with consistency that much, and without Herald, there's not that many ways to counter Shifter anymore. That's something to keep in mind, but it's still not making the deck any better. So I don't know, I think I put it at the top of tier 2 and just keep it there, because with the representation, which we are taking into account, it's seeing a ton of play, and then inevitably it sees like play in the top cut as well, because good players make it. And the deck, all in all, is just, it's strong. Even though it's struggling with consistency and all of that, it's not bad. And the loss it did take was Mystic Mine, because Flunder did actually utilize it. You could play around it very well, or not around it, like with it you would be able to make plays. And yeah, without Herald, I guess not that many players are going to be negating the Shifter, so that's nice if you're playing Flunder. And I think top of tier 2 is like the perfect placement. And then we have Hero. I think I'll put it quite high in Rogue. I think Hero has a ton of potential, mainly because of Darklaw, because Darklaw is that oppressive right now. And just overall, looking at the Hero deck, I was always a fan of it. Like, to be honest with you, I was always rooting for Hero to just do well, because it's such a cool deck. You know, you have so many different types of plays. You're able to make different types of, you know, boss monsters. It's not just a negate. At least sometimes, like, Hero could use a negate, if we're talking about Nibiru and all of that. But Nibiru is not seeing play in the format that much. Some people maybe play it, but I didn't really see it. So immediately decks that would get hindered by it just do better. So I don't know, maybe I'm being very biased, but I still think it's quite powerful as well. So somewhere towards the top of Rogue is fine for it. And then we have Adagnister, which, again, it's just Rogue. Some of these decks, like, nothing really happened to them. They didn't change much, even though Adagnister, actually, we might actually put it a bit lower. Let me think. Dragon Make could go a bit higher, because it's like genuinely seeing more play than Dragon Link. And Adagnister should probably stay somewhere down here, because it was hard carried by Mystic Mine. It was one of those decks that plays a ton of hand traps, that plays Mystic Mine, and then is able, like, consequentially do well in the format. But at least in my opinion, I might be doing it injustice. It might go higher if I put more thought into it, but I do want to make these tier lists genuine. And yeah, just from the top of my head, I think somewhere towards the middle part of Rogue is fine, because it did take a hit with Mystic Mine getting banned. Then we have Invoked, and Invoke was just power crept. Like, it's so funny, because people were like, oh, normal summon Alistair, and that was such a thing, but right now, I think it's not good. Like, honestly, I think it should go, like, over here, because, like, Dogmatica, Invoked, Shadow, we saw that deck. We have been seeing that deck for some time now, and then it just stopped seeing play because it wasn't as strong anymore, and it really never got to its feet again, if that makes sense. Like, a Mekaba is not enough. Even a Winda sometimes doesn't feel like it's enough, so there's that. Then we have Naturia Ishizu. Now, this deck for sure is going into tier 2. I think Naturia Ishizu is probably, like, should go over here. I think it's such a cool deck. Honestly, with Ishizu cards, you're able to play, like, obviously the Naturia things, which are insane if they get milled, the Sacred Tree in particular, and just with runic stuff as well. Like, I didn't include it in this particular picture because you're still able to play different variants. You have the Vernusylph cards, you have Naturia, you have Ishizu, and then you have the Runic Engine, which you're able to pair with the deck. And I think it has so much potential. I think it's so nice. And actually, Despia should go lower. Probably it should go below Exosister, because it's realistically not seeing play without Bestios. So yeah, let's just put it over here. Don't know why I kept it that high, but yeah, Naturia Ishizu insane contender right now, at least in my opinion. And then we have the, oh, I didn't realize that. I forgot I had a separate icon for the Thunder Dragon Bishio Ishizu deck. That's my bad. Let me reconsider then everything I've said. Dragon Link with Bishio still seems nice, but it's not seeing that much play, honestly. It's not seeing a lot of play, and I guess the combo variant is seeing more play, so let's just put them together and let's leave them over here. I think that's fine. I'm not sure, actually, because I didn't see a lot of tops with this deck, but it does seem like it has a ton of potential. So, now I'm getting, like, self-conscious about everything I've said. Like, I might be wrong. It might go... No, I'll leave it that way. I'll just leave it and you let me know if you agree or disagree. I think it's fine like this. And yeah, Labyrinth is our next deck. And I think it's like somewhere towards the top of Rogue, honestly, like maybe below Tri-Brigade, because it's still a deck that, like, because it is a chap deck, it's inherently slow. It inherently just needs to open very good hands, because in those types of decks, you don't see that many combos. Like, you don't see that many combinations of, you know, cards that like work together that well to the point where you're able to amass a ton of resources. So even if you open well, that's the next thing. Even if you open well, it might just not be enough. With Darkwing Blast, they received Lady Labyrinth, I think it's called, which was a nice addition. Definitely an addition that the deck needed. And I do think it's receiving support in the next set, but without that support, at least in my opinion, it cannot go higher than Rogue. But with that support, I do think it could go like towards the top of Rogue or maybe bottom of tier 2. So hopefully all of this makes sense. And as the next deck, it's very interesting to me how Madolche was like able to compete at the YCS. We saw a couple players, I think it was like 2 Madolche players making it to top 32. And it's also interesting that the list was, if I'm not mistaken, without Herald of Orange Light, because immediately when the hit to a Herald happened, I thought of, oh, you know, Madolche cannot run it anymore, because I do remember the deck running it, but it's running different things, and it just seems like a very decent contender. I think I'll put it like quite high in Rogue. It seems nice. Honestly, like it's not utilizing the graveyard. It can also play Shifter if it wants to. I remember seeing some builds with Shifter. There's also builds without. So like, there's options for you if you're playing Madolche. Also, one of those decks that maybe people won't really know what it does, because if you're a new player getting in, Madolche is quite an old deck, and also it's taken a whole different shape, and with the support it had, like, it even changed from like the perspective of older players. So I do think it's like a very interesting underdog pick for a potential like tournament you're going to. So yeah, I think I'll leave it in Rogue. And the next deck, Marincess, like, again, like, it seems very similar to Madolche, just a very nice pick. I think I'll put it like, I guess over here, because it is one of those decks, similarly to Tri-Brigade as well, where you're able to play a lot of hand traps and you're able to stop your opponent. And also Marincess got a huge boost with the World Dragon Zialantes, just making some very cool plays for the Marincess deck. And even though it's not exactly as powerful as the tier 2 and tier 1 decks, I do think it should go in Rogue. So then we have a Mathmech, and I think I'll place it somewhere in not good, just because, like, I don't know, over here I think is fine. It's taken a hit because Bishios, like, get rid of your light monsters. I did read a couple things and see a couple things about, like, lines of play where you're playing around Bishios. And still, like, Mathmech as a deck by itself is not bad, but in this point in time, it's just bad because of Bishios. So hopefully that makes sense. Since we're doing current tier lists, obviously it's going to go low, but looking at the sheer power of the deck, it was nice. Post support with the circular, it was really, really nice. Now it's just not the time for it. And also, since we're talking about decks that there's really no time for it, It's Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine Burn is going in the Brut tier. I don't know if I'll be slapping anything else down there, but Mystic Mine got banned. And honestly, looking at the card itself, seeing play in some of the top decks, I wasn't really against it. But seeing play in a Mystic Mine Burn deck, like when you're going up against the Mystic Mine Burn deck, you probably just want to die. And I'm really glad it got banned because of that. So the Mystic Mine Burn deck is no more, and I think we're very happy about it. The next deck, we have Pendulum. I do think I should be changing this icon to Draco Slayer, just Draco Slayer, because with this I'm trying to represent anything Pendulum that's doing well in this point in time, and right now that's Draco Slayer. So with me slapping Endymion over here, like up in tier 2, it's not me saying Endymion is nice, it's me saying Draco Slayers are nice, because they seem really, really nice. I'll put it maybe below Naturia Ishizu, because it's not seeing that much play, and it's a very hard deck. At least in my opinion. If you don't master it, I think you're going to struggle playing Draco Slayer, because there's so many things you're able to do. And also it's a whole another mechanic. Like Pendulum by itself, again, at least in my opinion, just seems kind of hard to play. So yeah, like tier 2 I think is perfect. Necro Valley is searchable. It's making some insane boards, and it's just so cool to see. I'm very biased. I'm a huge Pendulum fan, and just, yeah, I'm very glad for it. And then we also have Phantom Knights. I think this should be going in not good, like somewhere over here. Yeah, actually next to Mathmech is like the perfect placement for it, because again, it's a deck that's struggling against Bestios, but on top of that, not Pendulum, Phantom Knights was always a deck that's like post Verte getting banned. It just didn't seem like it's getting to decent enough end boards. I do think DPE with Verte Anaconda was like the perfect cherry on top for the Phantom Knights deck, and without that, I really don't think it's there, just in terms of power and all of that. So yeah, that's just it. Then we have Punk, just not good. Let's just slap it somewhere down here. It's not doing anything. It's not going to be doing anything moving forward, so that's pretty much it. Hulk, Chaos Ruler. It's sad to see, but it's very, very true. And then we also have Rika. I think I'll put Rika in like top of Rogue. It's probably not tier 2. It does seem like it's way lower in power, like between the top decks and Rika. And it's also not seeing that much play. So yeah, I think over here is like probably fine. But then looking at those decks I have up here, like it's not that great in comparison, because Despia is not seeing that much play. Hold on. I think I'll put Despia in Rogue, and I'll put Rika at the bottom of tier 2. Yeah, and I'll leave it like that. I think this is the placement I'm satisfied with now. And then we have Runic Sprite. Honestly, like, tier 2 is probably fine for this deck, like over here. It's not horrible, but you are struggling against, you know, Ishizu cards, shuffling back your Runic Fountain spell cards. That's just lame. And all in all, I wasn't a huge fan of the Runic Sprite deck. Actually, when it was really nice, before Ishizu came out. Sure, you know, go ahead, play this. I support you 100%. The deck is insane. But immediately as those cards dropped, I was just like, oh, you know, that's not that great anymore with Ishizu. And on top of that, now you have the downside of not having the battle phase, which you didn't care about that much pre-Ishizu, because the deck was, like I said, busted. But then post-Ishizu, you have so many things like not going well for you, or just not going in your favor, if that makes sense. Like not having the battle phase to clear the board, struggling against Ishizu cards, and immediately just seems like the deck is not that great. So like somewhere down here, or maybe even lower, like maybe somewhere here in the middle. Yeah, that's probably fine. And then as for actual pure Runic, it's not bad because of D-Fissure that came back. I do think this is a very nice addition. And overall, like, it was never just a Mystic Mine deck. I do think it was like almost mistakenly thought of as just this other version of Mystic Mind Burn, which is not the case in my opinion. It's just a stun deck that's obviously annoying if you're a meta player, you don't really want to go up against this deck. But I think it's like probably bottom of tier 2 with, I do think it needs to be said that the top of tier 2 is very much better than some of the bottom. I think the difference is huge, but I think with some of these stun cards, you're potentially able to do quite well in this particular format. So yeah, then we have Salamangreat, and it should probably go somewhere down here. It's not good at all, and BA is probably even better than Punk. So yeah, Salamangreat, quite an old deck at this point, and it's just power crept. It's not great. It's not doing anything. It's not doing enough with the end board you're establishing. And with Salamangreat, we also need to address another deck from the Eternal format, Sky Striker, and like Sky Striker is going quite low in Rogue. Mystic Mind was carrying Sky Striker, and me personally, I'm very sad to see it gone because of Sky Striker, but purely because of Sky Striker. So that's why I said before, you know, it's nice to see it gone because of the Mystic Mind Burn deck, but not that great to see it gone because of Sky Striker. I think it's like, I don't know. I don't even think it's Rogue anymore. It's like, yeah. Let's just put it at the bottom of Rogue. And again, maybe I'm being biased because I just don't want to see Sky Striker do not that great. I want it to do well because I'm a fan of the deck, but without Mystic Mind, there's nothing you're able to do. Bishios hurt you because of Ray. Ishizu cards hurt you, and yeah. Don't use Sky Striker right now. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. And then we have Sprite Brigade, which, hold on, I'm putting Runic Sprite lower. I don't think it's great right now. Or maybe I should even put it in Rogue because, yeah, let's put it in Rogue. Actually, somewhere over here, if you're still playing this deck. And then as for the Brigade Sprite version, I think we can place it like in tier 2. I don't think it's bad, honestly. There's some very decent plays, very decent combos, but people aren't really massively picking it up because you would much rather play a pure version and just put a bunch of hand traps in and try to compete that way. So that's just in my opinion, and that's very nice. We have the pure version over here so we can discuss it. I still think it's tier 1. It's like over here probably, and some things are going to go higher than this one, but like I said, you know, you have hand traps and you have a decent board. I think you're establishing a board that's good enough that with the combination of this and hand traps, if you build your deck properly, if you play enough hand traps to actually consistently open 1 to 2 of them, you're going to be able to do well because you have for the most part like 1 to 2 card combos. So you're fine if you open only those cards and then the rest of your hand is hand traps. And also throughout like just playing and through your combo, you're able to establish some kind of follow-up almost every single time. You have starter and you have the revive during your opponent's turn for something like a jet or a blue if you really need to. So you have enough plays to sort of slow the game down and just stay in the lead. And I think it's still a very fine choice to pick up, especially if you're trying to pick up a deck that's going to be able to like be played and for you to use for a long period of time, because it's not getting hit. It did get hit, and the next deck that's getting hit is going to be Ishizu, and immediately Ishizu tier, obviously. So tier Shizu. So immediately when tier Shizu gets hit, you're going to be able to go back to Sprite, which is quite accessible right now because prices dropped. So I mean, at least from when I last checked. I don't check market a lot, so I might be wrong, but I do think like blue just went down in price and it's like, sure, you know, pick it up. Why not? And then we have Guru. Guru should probably go like quite low, maybe below BA. Or actually, let me think about it. Metaverse came back. So you have more ways of getting to like the Hidden City. Couldn't remember it. Getting to Hidden City, and maybe we could like put it here. I think this is fine. It's still only Guru. I do not see potential in Guru. It's not doing enough. The one negate, like the one Fiendes, like, is that really going to do something for you? I don't think. Like, yeah, I get it. You have trap cards as well, but you cannot rely on opening, like every single time, having this perfect opening of getting to the field spell, so your engine, and getting to the trap cards as well. It's just realistically not happening a lot. Probably it was the case with Altergeist, and it's the case with Guru as well. So then we have Sword Soul. I think Sword Soul is just hardcore rogue right now. I'll put it like next to Madolce maybe. The Sword Soul level 10 synchro, the Qijing. The Qijing synchro, I think is really nice against Tirishizu. Like with the banishing, it's decent. If the opponent doesn't really know how to play against it, I think you're going to be doing fine. But that's pretty much it. Sword Soul just doesn't seem like it's there anymore because of the hardcore power creep that happened to it. Then for the next deck, we have the Bishio tier deck, and I think this should go in tier 2, like maybe below Exosister, because this is like the Pio deck, the like run everything tier Bishio, even branded, go to like 60 cards, play a bunch of things. Like, it's not bad, but similarly to the other combo deck we have it placed next to, which is really nice. It's just not the best version of the tier deck, and it's also it's quite hard to pilot, and it might run into like drawing some very weird and awkward hands. And yeah, just, it's fine, but it's not as good as some of the other variants. It's pretty much what it is. So yeah, there's that. And then the danger tier deck, like all of this should probably go in tier 2. And I think like if we place it next to it, it's fine, because should Exosister go a bit lower? Actually, it probably should. Like the danger tier deck is fine. Again, like we did see it when Ishizu cards dropped. A couple people topped without the new stuff, and they only played the. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Not Ishizu cards. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about Bishios. When Bishios dropped, some people decided to still play the danger stuff because you have a ton of bodies, you have a ton of plays. But right now, Curious got actually. I'm going way too fast. This is going lower because Curious got banned. The ban list is just so fresh right now. Like with the dangers, what are you really going into? Nessie is still Aqua, but that's not enough. So we should probably be placing this much lower, actually. No one's really going to be playing dangers because there's no Curious. Like, what are you going into? Damn, like, where do I place this? I'm wondering if I should just place it in Bruh because there's no Curious anymore. Like, yeah, that's what we're doing. So we went from top of tier 2 to Bruh. This was a journey. If you're actually watching this video and us like clicking to the end, I appreciate you. You just went through a lot with me. So yeah, not like Tirishizu just naturally going straight up and goated. It's still fine. Nothing happened to it. The Curious hit, as we saw, it only was a hit to the danger tier deck, and it was very late as well. Like people weren't really running it. And the next thing, Herald, some people weren't even running Herald. If you were citing it, that was fine for like rogue matchups, but the deck is still goated. And also another thing, with D-Fissure coming back, Macrocosmos coming back, all of these cards coming back, I don't think that's going to have much of an impact, at least in my opinion. The Paleozoic tier deck, I think, is very interesting. I'll place it in tier 2. I like it a lot, but in my last tier list, actually, I would like to repeat what the DB Grinder said, because he made a really good point about how the deck is that slow that you're going into time all the time, every single time. So it's not the best deck to pick up to play at a tournament, but it's a very nice deck to play just casually if you want. So I think this was a great point, and I don't think I should be like rambling about it if I can just repeat what he said, because yeah, it made sense. So That's the placement for it. And then we're moving on to the Scareclaw Ishizu. I always say Ishizu, Scareclaw tier, because it's so obvious that Ishizu is seeing play with tier. And the Scareclaw version it might be a bit better than the Bishio stuff, actually. But I personally wasn't a huge fan of it. Like, the Baron plays are nice. Visa Starfrost is insane. It's also searchable with Perlerino, so that's cool. But yeah, like, it's tier 2. You know, it's still fine. It's tier 2, but you're probably, if you're playing tier, you're probably playing tier Ishizu. So every single of these placements should just probably either not be on here or going bruh, because you're not playing them. Realistically, you're playing tier Ishizu, but we can still rank them. Now, the Sprite tier Ishizu variants, and I purposely said tier Ishizu variants because some variants are playing Sprite as well, and I think it should go in tier 1. I think those variants are very nice because the Sprite engine is honestly busted. Paired together with tier and Ishizu, like the Nimble stuff and Angler, going from Sprite Sprint to Angler is just such a clean play. And yeah, I think tier 1 is like the perfect placement for this deck. Then we also have tier Therian, which was a thing for a brief period of time, but yeah, I think I'll put it in Rogue. It's just meh, I guess. Doesn't seem that great. In theory, no pun intended. I love those jokes. Please don't come at me. I might even cut this out, but I'll just be real. I'll leave it in. So in theory, the Therian version is just not that great, at least in my opinion. And then we have the pure stuff. Honestly, like, if you're playing pure, it's probably somewhere towards the top of tier 2. It's not bad, but you would probably rather play Ishizu cards, especially since if you have the deck anyway, Ishizu cards are very cheap to pick up, so you can just upgrade the deck and just play with Ishizu. Then we have Thunder. This is just going in all good. It's not the Thunder Bishio deck, it's just the Thunder Dragon deck. I just don't want to cut it from the tier list because I have Salamangreat, Sky Striker anyway. I did cut Orcas though. Now I feel a bit bad, but what can you do? Let's just put it in not good. And then I did put in Virtual World because so many people said I didn't include it in the last tier list. I didn't realize that many people were fans of Virtual World. And naturally, I listened to you guys. I returned it to the tier list. I apologize for not including it in the last one, but it's not good. I'm saying all of this to say Virtual World is not good. It's going in Rogue. Probably not in not good, but yeah, it's going in Rogue. Let's put it here and let's change things up a tiny bit, clean things up over here. But other than that, I think I'm satisfied. Yeah, I think I'm satisfied. I think this is quite a decent tier list, and if you agree, disagree, want to change anything, any placement, want any other deck to be featured on the next one, please let me know. And yeah, if you like the video, of course, like it, sub to the channel, check out all the social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.